65. Myself Srija. So today we are going to learn about the ICD-10 conventions and general official coding guidelines. So it's a simple overview of these conventions and guidelines. So what are conventions first? Conventions are symbols, abbreviations, notes and instructions which are found in the ICD-10 codebook. So what does they do? They help the coders to select the correct code. For example, you have brackets, parenthesis, colon, includes, excludes one, excludes two. So what are the general coding guidelines? So there are some rules that apply to all the chapters in ICD-10 For example, you have to code to the highest level of specificity. You have to sequence the codes correctly. You have to use the combination codes. You have to code symptoms only when necessary. You have to check the laterality and you have to use the additional code notes. So these are some of the general coding guidelines that you apply to all the chapters in ICD-10 So why these guidelines matter? Because they ensure accurate patient records, correct insurance billing, and also the consistent reporting for research and statistics. So these conventions, these are the standard rules and instructions that help the coders to correctly use the ICD-10 book. So they are built into the alphabetical index and also the tabular list. So these are two parts of the ICD-10 So the alphabetic index. So what is alphabetical index? It's like a dictionary for medical coders. So it lists all the diseases, conditions and terms in alphabetical order along with the corresponding codes. So this helps the coders to find the initial code suggestion. So before verifying it in the tabular list. So this alphabetical index, it has four main sections. The one is index of disease and injury, the index of external causes of injury, table of neoplasms means tumors or cancers, and also the table of drugs and chemicals. So the next one, tabular list. So what is tabular list? It's a main body for ICD-10 It is organized by body system and condition. For example, respiratory, endocrine, circulatory, etc. So each code has a category of 3 characters and subcategories for more detail. You can see all these instruction notes like includes, exclude one, or use additional code below to these categories and subcategories. So always use both parts. Start with the alphabetical index to find a possible code and then confirm it using the tabular list. You should not only confirm by using only the alphabetical index. You should always recheck with the tabular list. So what is the format and structure of ICD-10 So basic structure. What is the basic structure? ICD-10 codes are made up of categories, subcategories and codes. So each category has 3 characters, right? So they may be letters or numbers. So these can also be expanded with more characters to add a specific detail. So how many characters are there in ICD-10 The codes may be 3 category, 4 category, 5 characters, 6 or 7 categories long or characters long. So a 3 character code, it can stand alone if no further detail is needed. So whenever only 3 category or 3 character code is present, no further detail is needed, it is considered as a complete code. If more specificity is required, if more digits are required to completely explain about the disease, so you can add some more subcategories like 7th character. So 7th character, when applicable, it gives you the extra information such as encounter type, what is the encounter and what stage it is, what healing stage it is, and which eye it is, either left or eye. So the 7th character, you can use the 7th character in many ways. So if a code requires a 7th character, so it is invalid without it. For example, there is a code called S52.5. It's a fracture of lower end of radius. It's incomplete, no, because they didn't give you what is its encounter, the type of encounter. Maybe it's a initial or subsequent or sequela. So to give a complete code, you have to give this seventh character to this code. So what is the formatting note of the ICD-10-CM? This ICD-10-CM codes, they use the indented formatting to make it easier to see the hierarchy. Means the first you can see the category, then subcategory, and then the code. And the next slide, use of codes for reporting purposes. So how do you use codes for reporting purposes? Only complete codes are used for the official reporting. Only complete codes, not incomplete codes. You just remember this thing. Not just categories or subcategories. So if a code requires a seventh character, it must be included to make the code valid. Because only complete codes are used for official reporting, right? So coming to the next one, placeholder. So what do you mean by placeholder? With a placeholder, we use a character X. So in ICD-10-CM, it uses X as a placeholder in certain codes. So what is the purpose of placeholder? This maintains a correct code structure, especially when a seventh character is required. For example, if you require a code completely for 7 characters, you do not have a 6th character over there. Now you will use this X in the place of 6th character, and in the 7th character you will require what you want. So it becomes a complete code. So placeholder, it helps to maintain the correct code structure whenever required, and it also allows a future expansion of the code set. So for example, there is a code T46.1X5A. So it's an adverse effect of cardiac stimulant drug, initial encounter. Here, X is used to fill in the 6th position because we have to add the 7th character A that denotes the initial encounter. So if a placeholder X is required, so you must include it, otherwise the code is invalid. Okay. And then next coming to the 7th character. So what is 7th character? Some ICD-10-CM categories, they requires a 7th character to specify the additional details, usually episode of care, type of injury, and also the stage of diseases. So this 7th character, it must always appear in the 7th position in the code. If the code is not long enough, less than 6 characters, or a placeholder X is used to fill in the empty spots before adding the 7th character. So what is the example? S52.521A. So S5252, it denotes the fracture of lower end of radius. Here 1 includes, it specifies the particular type. A, it denotes the 7th character, initial encounter for closed fracture. So if a 7th character is required but missing, the code is invalid. So coming to abbreviations. So what it is? Abbreviations, you have alphabetic index abbreviations. It is NEC and also the NOC. So what do you mean by NEC? It is not elsewhere classifiable. So what do you mean by it? So this NEC, it is used when there is no specific code for a condition. You will never find a specific code for this condition. The condition is out of the ICD-10-CM book. So you have to use NEC over there. It refers the coder to the other specified code in the tabular list. So if the alphabetical index listed is with NEC, it means this condition doesn't have its own specific code. Then you have to use the other specified option in the category. So this is meant by NEC. Now coming to NOC, NOS. So NOS, what is NOS? Not otherwise specified. This not otherwise specified, it is equivalent to unspecified. So it is used whenever the documentation does not provide enough information. So whenever if you get a document regarding eye surgery, so they doesn't mention you for what eye have been through surgery, the right eye or the left eye. Here a particular information is missing, right? So this is used when the documentation does not provide enough information to assign a more specific code. you have to use NOS. Okay. In simple way, NES means other specified, used when the doctor provides details but no exact code exists. NOS, it's unspecified, means used when the doctor doesn't specify details about the condition. There is a lot of difference between these two. And then punctuation. So what are punctuation marks? Why they are used? So why they are used in ICD CM coding system? And this punctuation marks, it is an important part of understanding. So how to read and interpret the codes correctly. So here there is a clear and concise explanation you can use for your notes or presentation, right? So punctuation. This may be in the form of brackets or parentheses. You can see over here what are brackets and what are parentheses. So these brackets, these are used in the tabular list to enclose the synonyms and also the alternative wording and the explanatory phrases. Means they are used in alphabetical index to identify the manifestation codes. Manifestation codes are nothing but they are the secondary codes. They are the secondary codes that show the manifestation of an underlying condition. For example, there is a D63.0 code. It is the anemia in neoplastic disease. So here the brackets give the explanatory or synonymous terms. And now coming to parenthesis. Parenthesis. So these are used in both alphabetical index and tabular list. But punctuation, coming to punctuations, brackets are used only in the tabular list, whereas parentheses are used in both alphabetical index and tabular list. So this encloses the supplementary words or non-essential words. So they may be present or absent in the statement of a disease or procedure. So they do not affect the code number assigned. For example, there is a gastritis, acute gastritis. Gastritis means inflammation of the stomach, right? So gastritis, acute and gastritis, they both use the same code since acute is non-essential because acute is written within the parenthesis. So what do you mean by non-essential modifiers over here? See, terms inside the parenthesis. I said you this is the parenthesis, right? So the terms inside the parenthesis are called as non-essential modifiers. So what does they do? They clarify a main term, but they don't change the meaning or code. So whenever a non-essential modifier and a sub-entry conflict takes place, so the sub-entry always takes the precedence. It always be the higher. I'm coming to the use of and. So example of a non-essential modifier and sub-entry. So what is the example? It's enteritis, right? So acute is a non-essential modifier, which is optional descriptive term. And whereas chronic, it is a sub-entry, a more specific condition under the main term. So the non-essential modifier acute, it does not apply to the sub-entry chronic. So acute enteritis and chronic enteritis are separate entries with different meaning sign codes over here. And then coming to colons. So what are colons? These are used in the tabular list after an incomplete term that requires one or more modifiers. So the modifiers that follow the colon, they complete the meaning of the code category. So what is the purpose of using this colon? To make the term assignable, to make a specific category, to complete a complete code. So for example, A54.0, it is for gonococcal infection of lower genitourinary tract. So this colon, it shows the description is incomplete until and unless some modifiers are added. So whenever this colon, it always gives the incomplete information. So you have to use this one addition to the description so that the code description will be complete. And use of and. The term and, why it is used in ICD-10-CM? It is interpreted as and or are. So this means a code includes the word and can be applied to both conditions or either one of the conditions listed. So for example, anemia and neutropenia. It could mean anemia, neutropenia, or both. So it combines two words, right? So it indicates two words. Either one of the conditions are present, either both conditions are present. So that's why we will use the and or in each and every ICD-10 classification. So this is all about today's session. In the next session, we will be learning about more ICD-10 guidelines and conventions. Thank you.